Hello puzzle people, welcome if it's your first time here, welcome back if you've been here before. This is chapter 14 of my puzzle story. It's been a while since I've done one of these chapters. Last I left it, I was about to leave for Spain to compete in the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships in Spain. That was in September of this year, 2025. In this chapter, I'll just be talking about my experiences in the individual rounds at the World Championships. Pairs, teams, and other events will come up in future chapters. So make sure to click subscribe so you stay up to date with all those updates coming up soon. This video is on just my puzzle experience at the World Championships. For a general overview, check out the recap videos that are posted on this channel. The individual competition started on day 2 of this week-long event. I was unfortunately placed in the first qualifying group. There were a few reasons I wasn't thrilled about that. The first being it was my first Worlds, so I just kind of wanted to see how everything worked first, so let another group go first and I can kind of see just kind of the setup and the approach that things take. The second reason was that there was a new rule at Worlds this year where you would have to pick between 2 puzzles in the qualifying rounds. They hadn't done this before. I'm someone who will definitely overthink that, so being allowed to see again how this system is going to work would have been beneficial. No one knew how the 2 puzzles were going to be chosen. They could be related to each other in some sort of way. They could have the same theme, but different approaches to that theme. It could be different types of puzzles. The difficulty levels could be very similar. They could be very far apart. There are so many unknowns. So going into that first event just added to the nervousness. Around 4 hours or so before my round started, I went for a calming / relaxing walk around the city of Valladolid, and I do this before most big competitions. I've spoken about it before at nationals in Canada. Before final rounds, I would go for a walk. I found one of the few places within the city that was mostly walking trails and forest, trees, stuff like that. That definitely helps with it. And yeah, just going for a nice relaxing walk where there's no other focus. I can let my mind relax a little bit and just mentally prepare for the competition. And it worked. It usually does. And yeah, I had time to still go back to the hotel and do some final preparations before my round started. Also mentioned in a previous chapter, before each competition round, I will try to do a practice puzzle of some sort just to get my hands warmed up. I used to do the small 100-piece puzzles. Now I try to do a 500-piece puzzle to replicate what the round is going to be like. So I did this about 2 to 3 hours before the competition started, just in my hotel room on a very small desk. My usual warm-up puzzle is New York Postcard. It's one I know quite well. I can remind myself how fast my hands can go in an ideal situation. So this puzzle took about 38-ish minutes, which absolutely fine. If I do that in the qualifying round, I'm definitely through to the semifinals. So it was a nice bit of motivation before. So with the walk plus the practice puzzle, I was in a pretty good headspace. After finishing the puzzle, I did a quick check of the World Jigsaw Puzzle Federation website just to make sure for the 100th time that I am still in the first qualifying group, and also to check for the 100th time that it still starts at 4 p.m. The level of panic that hit me at 2:46 p.m. when I checked that website and saw the start time on the website had been changed to 1:40 p.m. So over an hour before I randomly decided to check the website. It's probably the highest panic level that I've ever had in a puzzle situation, because essentially this meant that I would have missed the first round, or missed the qualifying round, and that was it. My puzzle individual experience is over before it even started, and yeah, high level of panic. Calm from the walk was gone, the focus and preparation from the practice puzzle was gone. Not off to a good start for the competition. I checked with some other people to see what they thought. I specifically tried to reach out to others that I knew were in the first qualifying round. Maybe I had missed something, and if that's the case, I guess it would be my fault-ish. But if no one from the first round first qualifying round responded to me, then I would know I had missed something. Luckily, there was a few other people that confirmed, yeah, we're still on at 4, so that helped a little bit. It was never made clear why the change was made on the website. Some people figured they were just testing out the system to make sure that the live clock was working, because that's super important. That the results page was going to be updating. I guess that's important as well. Why this wasn't checked, I don't know, a week before or even the day before when no one's really looking at the website. Again, go back and watch the recap videos of the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships. This was a small thing, but on top of a whole lot of other small things. It's not the most calming way to start a World Championship competition. I make my way to the competition location, which is at the Millennium Dome within the city. We were in there the day before, and there were some issues, and really we're just hoping that everything kind of has resolved itself. The previous day within the dome, we were there for the opening ceremonies, the Guinness World Records competition event, I guess, and the nations competition where I was part of the Team Canada contingent. It was extraordinarily hot within the dome that day. So warm. And we were really just hoping that it had cooled down for the actual competition. It had not. Walking into the dome, it was clear that heat was going to be a factor in the World Championships this year. Regardless, the competition goes on. As we sat down at the tables, the 2 puzzle options were hidden within the bags in front of us. But based on the shape of the bags, as well as they're slightly transparent, it was obvious that one puzzle was going to be a standard rectangular shape, and the other one was going to be a circle puzzle. Going into the competition, because of this choice situation, I gave myself 2 rules. One was that if one of the puzzles I had already done previously, I would just choose that one. If I had done both puzzles, choose the one I've done faster, obviously. But if it was one I had done and one I hadn't done, go with the one I had. In the event I had done neither of the puzzles, go with what my first feeling was. However, if one of them was a circle puzzle, under no circumstances will I choose the circle puzzle. The only exceptions would have been if it was the Circle of Colors Dreams or Astrology, as I have done them quite a few times. They're somewhat my fastest times for circle puzzles. But again, unlikely that's going to be the case. But if a circle puzzle shows up, absolutely not. Do not choose a circle puzzle. I was going to go with the rectangle puzzle. That was the rule I set for myself because I had done 50 to 60 Ravensburger rectangular puzzles in preparation for the competition. There was a chance I would get one that I may have done in the past, but also equally unlikely that I'm not going to get one. But there's a lot of similarities from rectangle to rectangle to rectangle, so I felt I'd be more prepared. Go with the rectangular puzzles. Overall, I am faster at those than any circle puzzle that I've done. So we are in our seats. We are ready to go. We are just minutes away from the World Championship individual rounds kicking off, and they decide to make a rule change announcement because this is obviously the best time to do that. This year, the stickers that hold the boxes together were not cut in advance. We knew this the day before. It came up during the Nations Challenge competition. It's not great as the stickers are not easy to deal with. However, they did give us some weird teardrop shape cutting tool, which would be useful if we were cutting through a bowl of soup. But other than that, they did not work. Did not work well. Time would be wasted for people trying to cut through the stickers. In a speed puzzling competition, I've mentioned this before, it should really come down to as few external factors as possible. So an external factor is opening the box. If we were told weeks or months in advance that this would be the case, then it's different. You have time to practice and prepare. If you can bring your own cutting tool, great, because then you can practice with that again in advance. But to be given a tool none of us had ever used before, it's going to cost people spots in the qualifying, in the semifinal rounds, the final rounds. There were quite a few examples this year of people missing out on qualifying by 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. And when you're trying to open a box with this little plastic tool that does absolutely nothing, it's going to cost someone a spot. Not because of how fast they are at putting a jigsaw puzzle together, but how fast they are at cutting through a sticker. No. Few of us experienced the cutting tool the day before, as I mentioned in the Nations Challenge. Part of my role on the Team Canada contingent was that I would open the box. It wasn't until we were at the table getting ready to go that they told us, oh, here's your plastic tool. You have to cut the box open. I've spoken about this in a different video, again in the recap video, go watch those. But that's when we first found out how difficult it was going to be to use these plastic cutters. After a lot of complaints from a lot of people, it was decided that all participants in every round were going to be given a 1 minute amount of time to open the bags, pick the puzzle that you are going to do for that round, and cut open the box, cut open the stickers. This minute would not count towards the actual puzzling. So if the faster you did it, the more time you'd have to look at the image on the box and get prepared, I guess. But everyone was going to get a minute, and then we'd start the official competition a minute later. The problem I had now was that I was going to have a lot of time to overthink my puzzle choice, and that is exactly what I did. The two puzzles I had to choose from were Lake Como and Circle of Colors Desserts. And remember my rule, do not pick the circle puzzle unless it is dreams or astrology. Also, pick the puzzle I've already done. In this case, I had done neither of the puzzles because that's exactly what was going to happen. So, choice is easy. As I was putting the desserts puzzle onto the ground, because it's a circle one, I have my rule, I just looked at it one more time and the gradient stuck out to me. I like doing gradients. It's easy to kind of do it section by section. The sections were somewhat clear, or so I thought in the moment, of what I could work on. While yes, there's also sections on the Lake Como puzzle. There's a lot more overlap. Again, in the moment, that's how it looked to me. So now I'm going back and forth. The circle puzzle, however, looks brighter, which is easier to do in the dome. I'm glancing around at the tables around me. It looks like more people are leaning towards picking the circle puzzle. I am placed slightly closer to the front of the room, so there are some faster people around me. If they think the circle puzzle is a good idea, maybe it is a good idea. But again, I've been practicing, I've been training, mostly with the rectangular puzzles. Lake Como more closely matches what I have been working on in the months leading up to the competition. The circle puzzle is going to take up more space on the table. That definitely makes things tougher. And remember my rule, no circle puzzles. So I went with the circle puzzle and I chose to do desserts. Once the time started, I regretted my decision immediately. Space was definitely going to be an issue. Circle puzzles just feel like more pieces as well, because again, it just takes up so much more space. The gradients were also not nearly as clear as what I thought I was looking at on the box. Looking at it now, they're not very clear gradients compared to some of the other Circle of Colors puzzles. Now I'm super nervous. I'm not even going to make it through to the semifinals, which was my biggest concern going into the World Championships. That is the absolute minimum goal I wanted, was in the individual rounds, make it through to the semifinals. And again, it was also extremely hot in the dome. The air conditioning wasn't working. The city was going through one of its biggest heat waves ever, I think, and so just having a lot of people inside the dome as well. For the very first event, the number of people is going to be a bit higher. I know there was a lot of people in there. Similar to what I wanted to see was how are the two puzzle options working. The outdoor TV, big screen, Jumbotron, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't up yet either, so that's pushing more people into the dome, and it was so hot. I was literally dripping sweat. It was gross. My shirt was soaked. Beads of sweat were dropping from my forehead as well onto the puzzle pieces. It was just very gross. So much so that I had to air out the puzzle once I got back to the hotel room later on because, yeah, some of the pieces, they were damp. I felt like I was making minimal progress. I attempted to start with the border, but then it wasn't as clear as I thought it might be. There also just isn't space to put the entire circle border together because of course there isn't. I knew this. I don't know why I picked the circle puzzle. I then moved on to the blue section, which also took me a while to get through. Those pieces stood out, but putting things together, it just wasn't going together very well. Moving on to the green section next, I was starting to pick up some speed. I felt like I was picking up some speed. But I'm looking at the tables around me and it's clear that I'm falling behind. The purple section was all right, but small, so I went through that in very minimal amount of time. Moving on to the red pinkish section next, it slowed me down again, so I skipped over to the yellow section, which was also taking me a long time, and now I'm just caught in a back and forth scenario where I do a little bit of the red, back to the yellow, do a little bit of red, back to the yellow, and that is not the approach I should be taking. My focus was all over the place. The heat was getting to me. I was feeling faint at that point, even though I was drinking a lot of water. It was just so hot. I could hear person after person finishing as well. I'm just very distracted at this point. At the 52 minutes and 43 second mark, my table mate finishes beside me, which is always a little bit of a disappointment when the person beside me finishes first. Part of what I use as a benchmark during competition is to see if I can beat the person beside me. My record so far at individual competitions is 3-3. Those are all at Canadian Nationals, so after this, I'm now 3 wins, 4 losses when I just compare to the person beside me. So not a great motivator during this round that I'm already struggling to get through. However, this wasn't really the highlight of that moment. I'm only going to talk about it briefly. It's been over 2 months now. It is funny, but I obviously can't get through talking about my world's individual competition experience without bringing this up very briefly. This is how I knew the person beside me finished their puzzle. Look, this stuff happens. It shouldn't, but it does. Was I happy about it? Absolutely not. Did my stress level jump up? Yes. Were there a few choice words on my behalf? Definitely. Did she apologize a whole bunch of times immediately? Yes. So many times, yes. It's fine. After I eventually finished, again, another apology, saying it was fine, absolutely fine. But it was something that was caught on the live stream, and it was something that was discussed among others during the week. It is what it is. But as someone pointed out to me, it did look like I was puzzling faster after that happened. I can believe that for a few reasons. The first one is I had to flip 20 to 30 pieces back over as quickly as possible. I'm not done. I'm not through to the semifinals at this point. I don't know what number place I'm in. I was also a bit annoyed. I didn't know this at the time, but it also the hit of the table also caused my camera to stop, so I don't actually have personal video of the end of the round. But in the moment, I was not happy with anything that was going on, and I probably did start to puzzle faster because if I'm angry in some sort of... If I'm angry, I puzzle faster when I'm angry. This has been especially evident in later October, November of this current year during virtual competitions, which has led to some very good results on my end, but that is a different story for a different chapter. I do eventually finish with a time of 57:02, which is good enough for 48th place and good enough to move on to the final. Luckily, I was also caught on the live stream, so I was able to... I do have evidence of me finishing the puzzle in the qualifying round.
And there's Adam. He's going to finish strong here, just over the 57-minute mark.
Nice.
He locks it in. Congratulations, Adam. Adam has a YouTube channel for Canadian puzzling. He does a really good job.
It was not my best day, but I just wanted to qualify, and I did. I now have the rest of the day to relax before doing this all over again in the semifinals the next day. I did stay to see what the next rounds would be, support the people that I knew that were there. The second qualifying round kind of put my annoyance level back up a little bit, as one of their two options was my practice puzzle, New York postcard. I had just done it in my hotel room on a very small table, as I mentioned, with a time of 38 minutes or so. I could have easily taken 2 to 3 minutes off my time in a competition setting doing that puzzle. So there's a good chance I might have been able to finish like in the top 20 in that qualifying round. But you get the puzzle you get, and I'm through in my qualifying round. That's really all that matters. The next day went a bit smoother. Still did my pre-competition walk to a different part of the city. My practice puzzle went well. New York postcard puzzle again. This time I got down to 35 minutes. So again, reflecting on if I was able to do it the previous day, yep, there might have been benefits or a higher finishing position. And looking back at it, it might have resulted in it might have ended in a different result for me at the World Championships if I had been in round B as opposed to round A. For the semifinal rounds, there is only one puzzle given to you. There is no puzzle choice to be made. Love it. It's an unreleased puzzle, so it's as even as it can be for everyone else. I also had a headband on this time to keep sweat out of my eyes because the dome was still 4,000 degrees. When it came to whatever the image might be, I was fine with pretty much anything. I didn't want a circle puzzle. It wasn't. I didn't want a puzzle where you would have to grind your way through it. It wasn't. That was in the second qualifier, second semifinal. And I didn't want a puzzle that had pink flowers in it. It did. That song that goes 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf clearly hasn't been in a puzzle competition. 3 out of 3 would have been perfect. 2 out of 3 was a little bit bad in this situation. The puzzle was Blossom Walk. It really went in to the cherry blossom theme. Not as bad as the cherry blossoms that were at the Canadian Nationals final, the Walk in the Rain puzzle, but you just have to kind of laugh when you see when this showed up. It's, again, we had our minute to prepare because we're still cutting the stickers off with the cutting tools. So we have time to kind of look at the puzzle a little bit, make a game plan for the approach you're going to take, and immediately abandon that game plan once you start the puzzle. I felt like I was moving pretty quickly through this, so I was feeling good right from the start. I didn't do a great job at pulling out the edge this time, so I had to leave a chunk of it. I definitely wasted time trying to put the edge together when I was missing, 10 pieces of the edge, and if you're doing that, not a great start. I got through the sky fairly quickly as well. Next was on to the colors, the yellows, the reds, oranges, colors, greens. They were also going through pretty good. I am jumping around a little bit between the colors, not ideal, but not too bad. Bouncing around a lot is something that I noticed looking back at my World recordings. It is It's something that I've worked quite a bit on since coming back from Worlds over the past few months. And again, it has helped with some virtual competitions I've been a part of where I am forcing myself to be a bit more focused on one section at a time. Moving around isn't a super bad thing. It did prevent me from just getting too stuck on one section and burning through a lot of time. But at the same time, it's not really letting you get used to the pieces and understand what each section is. So you're not going as fast as maybe you could. So there's pros and cons. Ideally, looking back at the footage, I would have rather focused a little bit more on each section instead of having to reset every time I moved on to something else. So it's a learning process. It's always a learning process. I was also slightly behind the person beside me, and with only 60 people making it through to the finals, every second and every person is going to matter. I have to beat the person beside me. This is also why finishing in like a top 20 spot in the other qualifying round would have been beneficial, because I finished in 48th spot in the qualifying round. I'm back at table 96 for the semifinal. You're around people that were around the time you were. I tend to puzzle faster if I'm beside someone who's faster, because as I said, I'm using them as a benchmark. Because I'm further back in the room, I'm with people that were similar to my time at the circle puzzle, and that circle puzzle is not overly reflective on my most capable speeds. So if I was maybe at table 80 or table 60, the person beside me would have been faster. It might have pushed me to go a little bit faster, making up a little bit of extra time. Maybe. Also, if you're with faster people, they have different strategies. You can kind of use, as I have in the past, use the strategy of the person beside you if yours is not going well. I did look at the person beside me to see what they were doing. The strategy didn't really help me too much. So there wasn't really a benefit. My ultimate downfall in this round was spending too much time on the last kimono. It's kimono, right? It was the blue purpley one, and it is something I should have just left and come back to at the end, which eventually I did, but I burned through at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe, trying to put this one together, and it just wasn't working. This is the one time I should have moved on to something else. The trees came together surprisingly well, despite being cherry blossoms. The ground went together pretty well as well with the cherry blossom petals. It was just that last kimono that really made the impact. I finished with a time of 48:43. I'm okay with that time. I know I could have gone a bit faster, but 48:43 for a puzzle I had never seen before, and for a first attempt, it's one of my faster times. I also beat the person beside me. I did catch up with them and pass them, so my record's back to 4-4, so happy with that. At this time, I didn't know if I had qualified or not for the final. The updates were very slow. There was issues with the website, so much so that my phone would no longer allow me to access the website because of potential issues with malware and viruses that could be coming from the site. So I had to rely on others who had iPhones, and iPhones don't care. Some of them were able to access the website. I would have to just wait. I knew it was going to be close if I made the final or not. There was a large display board up in the dome that was showing the updated positions. At one point, I was somewhere in the 40s, around 45, 46, I think. I knew there was going to be updates. That was not all the names entered in. A little while later, maybe about 10 minutes or so later, I dropped to about 51st place on the board, which is fine. Top 60 moved through. I've already dropped 5 or 6 places, dropping another 9. Possible, unlikely, but possible. The board also wasn't cycling through the order properly. Like, it wasn't first through 10 on one side, and then 11 through 20, and then 21 through 30. It would be first through 10, and then 31 through 40, and then 71 through 80, and then back to 21 to 30, and then back to first through 10, just to make sure we saw them again, and then 11 to 20. And it was just bouncing around all over the time, and it just never seemed to get to the to the page that I needed to see for myself. I knew I was on the 50s, around 51. Just go back to the 50s page, just so I can see the 50s. It also wasn't showing any pages in the 60s, and those are the only two pages I cared about. If I'm on either of those, I know for sure what my result is going to be. It took about 20 to 30 minutes for my name for the 50s to show up again, so 51 through 60 showed up. I didn't see my name at 51. Where I was standing in the room, there was a little bit of a barrier put up, and as someone who's shorter, I couldn't see past 51, 52, so I had to ask the taller person beside me who could see over the barrier if they could see my name. They were able to see all the way down to 58, I think, and that was it. So I'm trying to get further back in the room to see this. By then, the board has changed again, not to page 60, because the 60th, first to 60 or to 70, it goes back to 1 to 10. So frustrated again, just trying to figure out what place I'm in. Website still not updating properly. Finally, the 51 through 60 board shows up again. I am not on it. Then it goes in order, and I see places 61 through 70. I have dropped not 9 places to 60, but 15 places to 66. I have not qualified for the finals. So yes, I finished in 66th place, 1 minute and 7 seconds out of a spot in the finals. It was devastating. It was frustrating. It was a lot. Outside of the dome, there's a nice grass hill. The temperature outside the dome wasn't as bad. It probably was still bad, but it wasn't as hot as the dome was. So, and it was later in the evening at this point as well. I just spent some time on my own at this point. I watched the second qualifying round on my phone, just had my headphones in, just kept to myself for a bit of time, just to, again, reset my mind, have the emotions I need to have, and move on. As of that moment, my individual journey at the World Championships had come to an end. Upon reflection, it was probably the delay in finding out that made it even worse. Seeing my name initially within the 40s, I definitely felt great at that time. I still had hesitancy. Other people were saying, oh yeah, you're through. Until things are official, it's not official. There was people back in Canada that were watching me on the streams, and they checked the results and saw at one point I was in the 40s. They thought I was through, so there was like some congratulatory messages on my phone, which again, I had to reply, nothing's official till it's official. There's no need to update. If you can't update the website properly, don't do it. And I know I'm not the only one. There were many other people, at least in the individual rounds. Probably it happened again in the pairs and potentially teams. But individual rounds, there's just a different feeling because you're on your own for the most part. It's you go through or you don't. There's no one to kind of be that support system like if you're like in the pairs or the teams. There were people that ended up dropping spots and then missing their place in the semifinals or finals by 1 second, like I said, or 3 seconds. And that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt even more for them. And I feel bad for those as well. Again, if you can't update your website efficiently and properly, take off the 10,000 ads as well. Don't let viruses and stuff through. A whole lot of things. Again, recap videos I go through. I'm not going to do this again. Recap videos, I talk about it more. But there's no need for it. It's a good feature if it works perfectly. It doesn't. Wait until you have the top 70 spots. So your 60 qualifiers plus the next 10 after that, then update the website. I don't know, maybe it's just a way of coping with the fact I wasn't going through to the finals. Maybe that's what it is. I was under 50 minutes with my round. It wasn't enough to move on to the finals. I didn't think it was going to be enough. This year's competition was tougher than the year before, which was tougher than the year before that, which was tougher than the year before that. It's going to get tougher potentially each year. So, yeah, I did what I did what I could, was enough to move on. So, unfortunately, I was not able to compete in the finals. While that was still disappointing, being able to be just a spectator on that second to last night in Spain was nice as well. There was benefits to that. The atmosphere of the people watching outside on the nice big jumbotron that they had put up was special, and I'm glad I was able to experience that. That being said, if I do return to the World Championships next year, I don't want to watch the final round. I want to be in the final round. And lastly, I just want to do a huge congratulations to all the people that did make it to the finals and competed. The winners did an amazing job. The top Canadians that made it through to the finals also did a great job as well. It wasn't an easy puzzle. It is difficult. I still haven't done it yet. I plan on doing it soon. Potentially my first puzzle to kick off 2026 as a way to say, this is my goal for this year. What I want to be doing, whatever version of this puzzle appears at a national championship or at a world championship or regional championships, whatever it might be. I think that's probably what I will do. It will be my first puzzle. January 2nd is when that puzzle will be done. Good motivation for 2026. That is it for this chapter. I did enjoy my world's individual experience overall. There was some ups, there was some downs, there was some eventful moments. It's a lot of memories were made during it. I'll go into more detail on overall my world's experience in a later chapter. Next chapter is going to be on the pairs events. So again, if you want to keep following along, make sure to click subscribe to stay up to date. If you enjoyed this video, my stories, whatever it might be, click like, and yeah, leave a comment if you have something to comment on. I don't know, just do whatever you want to do. We're good. As always on this channel, Speed Puzzling 101 videos are updated weekly, where I give quick speed puzzling lessons in 10 minutes or less most of the time. We are now up to 8 episodes of Puzzles Chatty, where I sit down with other speed puzzlers, Canadian speed puzzlers at the moment. 2026, I will be expanding that to an international version of Puzzles Chatty. So again, make sure to follow along on this channel so you don't miss out on some very interesting and fun conversations coming up in the new year. Episode 9 of Puzzles Chatty will be released very soon as well. It's a very good episode. One of my favorites so far. Stay tuned for that. That is it. So until next time, as always, happy puzzling. Bye.